Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, I wanted to welcome everybody for coming today. There's likely going to be people joining us as we kind of continue our talk here. First and foremost, I want to give a huge, huge thank you and all the gratitude in the world to Annie Latrella for joining us today. She is from Fairway Lending. I'll let her introduce you to you guys. Yeah, she's someone that personally did my home loan. Yeah, I trust her implicitly. So if you guys just listen to where she's coming from, you're going to learn a ton of information. She's like an encyclopedia when it comes to VA loans and all other types of loans. So, Annie, thank you and welcome. So, s- Annie, why don't you tell them a little bit about where your company is located?
Here we go. I kind of missed what you said because
Um,
it broke up. I missed it. But
oh,
anyway,
tell us a little bit about where your office is located and the areas you cover.
hey everybody, how you doing? Annie Latrella, and we're with Fairway. We're a direct lender, and that's really cool because we're the only employee owned lender in the United States, which means our guidelines, we go right off the basic guidelines. We don't add any extra layers, risk layers that banks, credit unions, and brokers do. So it makes it easier to close. We're located in Shelton at 80 Huntington Street. And we're licensed in Connecticut, Florida, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So we're out there. Our goal is to serve all of our clients, especially those that are serving or have served in the military. And been in this business almost 30 years. Absolutely love it. And I'm really excited about today because doing VA loans is one of our heartthrobs. It is an honor to be able to serve anyone that has already served in the military or currently serving. That is our goal and our passion. So thank you, Eddie, for having me.
Thank you, Annie, for joining us today. And I'm looking at your uh, flyer that we have up. Your company has funded over 10,000 VA loans this past year. That's phenomenal. So
Mhm.
congratulations on that. Uh, you guys definitely do offer a lot of assistance to our veterans, and are here to help them. So I wanted to talk, firsthand about what a VA loan is and who might be eligible for it.
Okay. So a VA loan is a really cool loan because it is basically backed by the United States Department of Veteran Affairs, and it provides affordable home financing for those that are currently actively serving as in the military or those that have already left the service. And but the cool thing is we could also qualifies for a loan is somebody, the spouse of a veteran that has passed away, the surviving spouse. So that's a really cool piece. So it's for our active service members, our veterans, and also a surviving spouse. It can be the National Guards, you can be in the reserves. So anyone that's been in the military, that is who this loan is for. This is a special loan just for you.
Awesome. That's phenomenal. I was not aware of the surviving spouses were eligible to purchase. Are there some additional guidelines when it comes to surviving spouses that we should be aware of, or it's pretty straightforward?
It's pretty straightforward. The biggest thing with any of our VA loans is that you have to be able to qualify with your income, and so I've actually had people that were engaged to be married. So when you're doing a VA loan, if you're not married, I cannot use your income. So let's say Eddie, you and I were buying a house together,
Hmm.
but we're only engaged and we're not married. You would not be, if you were the veteran, you would not be able to use my income. So
Wow.
I've actually had people that went to the town hall to a justice of the peace because they were engaged and they actually got married because they were going to get married anyway, so that
Oh,
they would
right.
qualify for their house. I've had a couple of people do that. It's kind of comical.
Oh, that's cute. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
the cool thing is that you can have a single family, a condo, a townhouse. You can buy a two family. It's here for you. Gives you more. The VA loan gives you more flexible guidelines, which is really cool. For example, because it's more flexible, you don't have to put a down payment at all. Not at all. It's 100% financing if you so desire. However, if you are, which is something we'll talk about later, if you're going to have, let's say you're being relocated and you need another VA loan for the house that you're purchasing farther away because you're serving and you have to move and you want to keep your house. Well, what happens is we have to go back and see if we do an eligibility cert. So the eligibility cert will tell us if you have any partial or full entitlements left. So having the other house, you may not have full entitlement, so you may need a down payment. But
Okay.
that's another discussion. Really cool thing about it, the guidelines are a little bit more flexible. And also, there's no PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. It's basically financed into the loan, or the sellers can actually pay for it. So it'll drop the payment for the military person if they so desire.
Okay. So are there any limits on how much of a seller can contribute or give as a concession?
Up to 6%.
Up to 6. Wow, that's pretty huge.
Of the purchase price.
Okay.
And the biggest, I would say, and I know I'm probably jumping from what we're talking about because this is such a tremendous loan. And for anyone that has served so that we could have our freedom, so that we could be doing this, we owe them everything. And for me, the biggest thing that is so important is to help people in real estate as agents and also all of our neighbors around us to understand this is really an easy loan. It is really a good loan. It doesn't, there's so many things out there that there's misconceptions and they're just not true. It's a great loan and we should go out of our way to make sure that we can give more accepted offers to our veterans that are applying because they will qualify. They're going to close. It's really simple. It's a great, great loan. You can have a 30-year fix, you can have a 15-year fix, or you can have an adjustable. Most of my veterans all do a 30-year fix, but it all depends on what your plans are. It may make more sense to do an ARM depending on that, but it's a really cool loan. And like I said, you can see on the screen here that the financing fees can be rolled into the loan amount. So what that means is that the sellers, well, the PMI, it has come down. It's not as high as it used to be, but that whole piece, it used to be about 2.15% of the loan amount for a first-time veteran.
Mm-hmm.
So that's times the loan amount. And so that just gets financed into the loan. But the sellers can pay that if they want.
I've heard the word funding fee. Can you explain what that is?
Okay. So the funding fee itself is really what keeps you from having PMI. So what they do is they have a calculation that, depending on what the purchase price is, if it's your first time veteran or if you've had other times that you've used the VA loan, it will continually go up, the funding fee, and then it kind of maxes out. And so what that does is that offsets the PMI.
Okay.
And so that you don't have it. So all the government loans have a funding fee.
Okay.
And it goes right to the VA and it just offsets your PMI because you're not putting any money down.
All right.
That's the simple way to explain it.
Perfect. So that is in lieu of having PMI, they're just going to have this funding fee. And then you're ultimately something that you can have even the seller give you a concession on, and you can roll that kind of into the loan.
Right. So the funding fee itself offsets the PMI, but so basically in their payment, they're going to have principal and interest, taxes, and insurance. That's it. So that saves them a whole lot on their payment.
Okay, so on average, it's likely a lower payment. How are those interest rates for VA loans? Are they pretty competitive to say like FHA or?
Yeah, actually, VA is even a little bit better than FHA. Our Govy loans are better priced, and also because I have my own branch, it gives me some flexibility of if we're competing and we want to get our client the lowest rate possible. We can even get them what we call a concession, and that comes from us, where we can get them into a lower rate, but not have to charge them what that full charge of that rate is. So that's just another thing that we do to help our veterans.
Wow. Wow. So that you heard it here, folks. That's a first uh, or something huge that you're going to get extra benefits in using Latrella lending to obtain a VA loan because you're going to get Latrella lending is going to give a credit to the VA um, so they can get better pricing. So,
Interest rate, and we will also pay for their appraisal. That is an automatic that we do. That's our gift, and that's really important. People say, "Well, what's $600? What's 650 or whatever the appraisal might be, depending on what kind of property."
mhm.
We pay it just because it's the least that we could do. To give back to someone that's already served and given us our freedom. So that's another thing that we do.
Just want to rewind for one quick second where you were saying the types of property that a VA loan will finance. So we can do condos, right?
You can do condos, but they have. So that's just the only thing. Condos and townhouses are the same thing. They
Okay.
have to be VA approved.
So they need to be VA approved.
Yeah.
Can we go to like the HUD approved list? Is that the
Mhm.
same list that we're looking at?
Yeah, we can go right on HUD. We can pull it up. Unfortunately, a lot of the condos or townhouses are not VA approved. A lot of them were back in the day with FHA also. We're
Hmm.
slowly going back because it takes a lot of time.
Hmm.
We're slowly going back and typically if they're FHA approved, we can do a quick VA approval.
Okay. Now, is there FHA had brought back? Was I mistaken that FHA brought back spot approvals
Yes.
for condos? Is that applicable to VA as well?
You know what, Eddie? That's a really good question. I've never done in 30 years. I've never done a spot approval for VA.
Okay.
It very well could be, but I will circle back with you on that one because that
All
one
right.
I don't
All
know.
right. Well, hey, I think important to note, right? So if it's a condo, let's just say it needs to be on that list, right? So if
Yeah,
it's not on that list, it's not likely going to happen. If it's on the FHA list,
there's a good
there's a
chance.
good chance that you
Yeah.
can make it applicable to VA.
If
So
you
then,
want, no, go ahead. Sorry.
you were talking about other property types just to round that out. So single family, of course, dwellings. You got multifamily. Can we talk about number of units? So we could buy a two family, three family. Can we buy up to a four family?
So the whole thing on that is you can, but then this is where your balance comes out. There are once you get into the 3 and 4 units, there's certain calculations. So if the property doesn't have enough income coming in to offset the mortgage, then it won't meet that condition.
Okay.
So, that's just something to take into consideration when you're looking. So yeah, but you can go ahead and do that, but it has to meet the requirements, and that's something that we'd have to calculate
Okay.
before you fall in love with the house. Most
So,
definitely.
so we're still looking at traditional lending requirements with regard to, being able to afford the payment, right? So
Yes.
we're looking at income. If we're looking at multifamily homes, we're going to give you some credit for the amount that you're going to collect from rent for those other units that you're not going to occupy. So, I guess I'll pause there for a second. You always have to own or occupy this property. Is that right?
100%. That's a good point, Eddie. VA is an owner occupied loan. 100%.
Okay, so if I'm owner occupying the first floor of a three family house, I can rent out the second floor and the third floor. I can collect rent. You're going to give me some credit, not
Mhm.
all the credit. And the reason why you're not giving me all the credit is you might end up with a vacancy, right?
Correct.
So
That's correct.
what's the percentage that you would get credit for?
75%.
So 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 if you
75%.
get 75% credit for the rental income that you're going to collect. And hey, let's be honest, rents have gone up over the last couple of years. So if you're in Fairfield County, for example, you're
Mhm.
likely going to be getting a pretty decent rent from unit two and unit three.
Yep.
So you could certainly use this for a multifamily home.
Mhm.
So I really want to be super clear. This is not for anything beyond a 4 unit, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
once you go beyond 4 units, you're in small commercial.
Okay.
That's
So
all. That's a
so
standard.
no so no longer good for a VA loan. Yeah. So now I've found the property. It's either a single family home or a multi-family that's up to 4 units. What do I need to know if I'm a veteran and I'm applying with the Latrella Lending Group to get my loan approved?
Yeah, it's a good question. The first thing we need to do is determine your eligibility. So the first thing that the veteran needs to do is to go on the VA website. It's va.gov, and they can put in their information. They're going to need their DD 214, 214, whatever you want to call it, because that tells them the branch of the military, when they joined, when they left, how many, did they put in enough time. Once you punch it into the to get the certificate of eligibility, it'll tell you whether or not you have any additional VA benefits available to you.
Okay.
So
So
now,
so
people that are in the reserves, if you haven't finished your contract time, you're not going to have a full eligibility cert. You may not have any at all.
wow. So if you're so time served is super important, right?
Yeah.
So, and
But
that might
for someone, hmm?
that could drive your eligibility for
That
VA.
is correct. So, like for
Okay.
someone that right now is in the reserves, and let's say they have an 8-year contract and they're 4 years in, if they go to pull out their certificate of eligibility, they're probably going to show that they don't have enough. However,
Okay.
if that person that's in the reserves for 4 years right now doesn't qualify, but let's say something is happening in our world and they are now requested to be deployed, if they're deployed for 6 months, that changes everything. Then they'll have full eligibility.
Oh wow. On a dime, if you become active service member,
Mhm.
uh, meaning you're deployed to some other country, then your eligibility
Changes.
gets
Mhm.
fast tracked, right?
Yeah,
So
backstretch. So it's really cool. So I mean, everything that's out there is to help our military. It's to help our veterans. It's to make it easier. So that's the first thing that we have to do. We have to make sure where we are within our eligibility for the VA loan.
okay,
Because if you only have a partial eligibility, then you're going to be putting down a little bit of a down payment. So
I
now,
got you.
but again, the VA rates are lower, so it's still going to be very advantageous for that individual. More
Okay,
than likely.
so
Go ahead.
any what are credit score requirements a little bit more relaxed for a VA loan?
580 is the low credit score.
Wow, are
Yeah,
there and I don't want to confuse viewers, but yeah, a lot of banks have overlays, right? Where
yeah.
yeah, the program says you can do 580, but theoretically you won't find a lender or it's rare to find a lender to do it at 580. Is that the case here?
No, we do it. We do it. They may have to show rental for the last 12 months that they've been paying their rent on time, for example, but we do it. Our goal at Fairway is to serve our military. I mean, we go as far, we also have a nonprofit that we can talk about later that's called American
Ooh, that,
Military Initiative, which is really exciting and really cool. And again, it's just another offshoot to show our passion to serve our military.
oh, that's phenomenal. I definitely we cannot leave today without.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, folks. We've got some great information with this program that Fairway offers. But I just want to round out our eligibility requirements. So I've got credit score. That doesn't necessarily have to be that high. It could be as low as 580. First and foremost, I'm going to find out if I got my
Eligibility.
my eligibility requirements down. Income requirements. You're going to be looking at my income.
Yep.
You're going to be. You mentioned you may be looking at my rental history.
Maybe if you have.
Um,
You know what's interesting though, Eddie, and because our military is just trained the way they are and their disciplines, they typically don't have a 580 credit score unless something is
sure.
really, really bad happening in their family because they're so disciplined in the things that they do. And but we can't go down to 580. On the income, we also have to look at the residual income afterwards. And sometimes, like when we're looking at our debt to income ratios, that is something that we follow with everyone. So what that means is your gross income as a whole, dividing your mortgage payment and then dividing your mortgage payment and all your debt into your gross income. We have what we call debt to income ratios. And yet we have so much more flexibility with the VA financing, loan financing. So they have more freedom, which is really, really cool. And so we look at the residual income and we put it all together. And very rarely are these ever denied. I mean, they don't. They go through. It's just really cool. So we're going to look at your income. We're going to look at your assets, and then we're going to sit down and we're going to talk. We're going to do a Zoom meeting or meet in person, and we're going to talk about the numbers. We're going to talk about this. What do you really want to spend every month? Like, if the house that you're looking at are $500,000, well, here's the payment. Is that really what you want to do? And yes, you qualify, but is that really what you want to do? So we're going to go through that, and we're going to talk about what makes sense for that family because everybody's different.
Oh, phenomenal. So you did mention that they're looser, if you would, loan requirements for a VA applicant than there are for traditional borrowers.
Correct.
So they're not as stringent or as strict, the underwriters, when they're reviewing and approving these. And as you stated earlier, it's rare that you see these things not get approved. And it's also rare, you said, to see a VA applicant with a low credit score because of their disciplines that they've kind of learned in the military get applied to their regular lives. And it's kind of unusual to see them with a low credit score to start with.
Yeah.
So once I've applied for this loan, you've already gone through what the documentation was that you're going to be providing. Is there you see these things typically go through very easily? Is there um, one one thing about the process, and it's kind of a misconception that I hear a lot with other agents, is that the process with regard to get this VA loan is a lot longer compared to any other loan. Is that true or false?
No, that's not true. It may be with other lenders. I mean, there's a lender out there that makes us crazy because just their name, veterans automatically go to them. I don't want to say it what it is. You would know if you went online and you put in VA loans. They always come up. They're horrible. And to me, more importantly than what you do with your other borrowers, for someone that has served our country for us, man, you want to do your very best to make it as simple and as less stressful as possible. Typically, we've been working with veterans for over 22 years. Typically, we close them in 21 to 25 days on an average.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
But let me just add to that.
Mm-hmm.
We're also doing what we call the cash guarantee. So the cash guarantee, and the reason I bring that up is for two reasons. One, the file goes into underwriting. My underwriter signs off on the income and assets. It comes back. When Eddie's selling your house or helping you buy a house, Eddie's going to get this addendum that he's going to give to a listing agent that guarantees that we will buy that house cash if we are not able to close on the contractual closing date.
So that's kind of like an insurance policy, if you will.
100%. And let's say, God forbid, the person loses their job. We will buy that house cash. Real estate agents get paid. And then we'll hold on to that house for 6 months in case the veteran can come back. And this is not even, we do it for all of our loans. Gets another job and can requalify. In 6 months, we sell it back to them at the same purchase price. But the whole cool thing is once that underwriting is done, when you're submitting their offer, and someone might, and we also call the listing agent, say, hey, listen, I know this person's putting zero down. However, it is a VA loan. It's a really cool loan. Now that you have the cash guarantee, I can close you in 12 days if you want, because now I just need title, appraisal, and insurance. So that whole myth of it taking longer, it's not even true. At least it isn't for us. It is for others, but not for us.
So talking about timing and myths, I hear a lot about appraisals. Mm-hmm. So appraisals typically take a long time. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Sure. So appraisals, we own our appraisal management company. So not that we can steer them, because you cannot. All right. That's impossible. You can't do that anywhere in the country. However, what that means is if Eddie is selling you a house that is in Bridgeport, Milford, Monroe, New Haven, Brookfield, doesn't matter where it is in Connecticut, we're only going to have appraisers from that area. I'm not bringing in an appraiser from up by the casino in, the northern part of Connecticut to come do an appraisal on a property in Shelton, Connecticut. We're not doing that.
Okay.
So there are appraisers that are right there. Our appraisals are done in 7 days at the latest. And VA appraisers have to be, or I shouldn't say that, they are certified, they're separate, but the VA gives them like 3 weeks. Ours are in and out, we're done. So it also, because we own the appraisal management company,
Mhm.
excuse me, it gives us the opportunity also that if we feel that the appraisal is flawed, we can go back, if we have comps from the agents, and go back and work on that appraisal. But typically we don't have a problem with the meeting the sale price. Very, very, very rarely. I mean, if I look at last year with the VA, we have never had that on any of our VA loans not meeting the value. And
Okay.
even on our regular loans, out of, let's say, 250 loans closed in a year, we might have had 2 that we had to go back to the appraisal management company to ask for a reevaluation.
So if you submit, they typically resubmit comparables to prove the value. They'll consider it, and they may readjust their numbers.
100%.
Okay.
I've never been at a company like this.
So there's no, if you would, stigma that, or this misconception that others or some folks have, where if it's VA, it's going to be looked at more conservatively, and just because it's VA, it's going to actually come in much lower than it would if it were conventional.
100% untrue.
Okay.
100%
So a common misconception, because a lot of agents and brokers out in the marketplace seem to have this theory that they're going to encounter a whirlwind of problems if they accept an offer from a VA loan. One, yeah, that the property is going to be looked at more stringently. So talk to us a little bit about what an appraiser is looking for when they go out to a property to evaluate it.
So the most important thing that they're looking for is safety and health factors. So for example, something as simple as, which we've had, a stairwell going into the basement. And it's a steep stairwell and it's more than a couple steps. Some of the older houses don't have a railing. Well, you got to put a railing in because you need a railing so you don't fall off the stairs and onto the cement floor. Something very simple. If you have peeling paint on the outside or on the inside, right? They're going to want that cleaned up because it's important. You have cracked or broken windows. They're going to want that cleaned up. Now, what if the seller comes back and they say, or even, and I just had this on an FHA loan, it wasn't VA. Client decided to switch to an FHA loan. And until I got the appraisal back, I did not know the property had some safety issues. And it'd be the same thing on VA. And it was basically the end of a brick walkway at the end of the walkway to the front door. It was a little bit messed up, had to be fixed. There was a little retaining wall, had to be fixed. But the seller said, no way, no way, no way, I'm not doing it.
Okay.
No problem. We do an escrow holdback. So the escrow holdback means my client, after we have an invoice for whatever the costs are, to fix and remedy those things that the appraiser focused on.
Mm-hmm.
Client brings that extra money to the closing table. It sits with our escrow department. And then as soon as the work is completed, the contractor submits his final invoice and we pay him. And it's all good. And we do it on VA loans too. So just because you may have issues on a property, peeling paint, but I mean, we're going into the spring now, but in the winter, we just did one up in Vermont. It had peeling paint on the deck. So we did the escrow holdback, but it was pushed out till May, until the snow melts.
Okay.
So it doesn't stop the closing. The whole point is get you to the closing table and move on. But the appraisers there, the appraisals are just looking for health and safety issues that could be there, but they're not more stringent. It's really to the advantage of a client. There will have to be a pest or a termite report done. That's just automatic. It has to be done.
So just for clarity's sake, right? Like that's supposed to be paid by the seller. Is that right?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's one nuance that's a little different than any conventional or even FHA deal, is that we're asking the seller to pay for um, pest control, uh, inspection, and then to show a receipt that they paid it.
Right. Now, if the seller really gives us a hard time and it's going to be a deal breaker, cut to the chase, we're going to pick up the tab.
Look, honestly, in most cases, Annie, we've actually found that we're getting the inspection anyways. The pest control is actually part of the buyer's home inspection, and it's merely in most cases just getting a receipt from the inspector with the seller's name on it rather than the buyer's.
Right.
So it
It
just
works.
is,
Either way, it
it's
works.
as easy as that, because it's redundant to get another separate pest inspection when the regular inspection usually covers termite treatment. Whether or not there's termites or any other pests in the property. So um, very simple, and you just need that specific form that says
Specific
that,
one.
yeah, that says that there's no termites. And we've had instances where there were termites, right? So then ultimately, we're then asking the seller to remedy that, right? And in
Mhm.
most cases, the sellers are going to have to, right? Like, it's even if they're insistent on selling as is, in those cases, they're going to need to address it, because if not, it's going to become a disclosure issue going forward, right? So they break our deal, they're going to go into try to find another buyer. Well, no buyer in their right mind is going to want to purchase a property that has
Termite. Mhm.
termites. So,
They're actively
so,
hanging out.
so that, huge red flag that they have to, since they're aware of it at that moment, have to disclose. Otherwise, they're not disclosing material fact and open up themselves to potential legal issues. So, um, long story short, a lot of these misconceptions don't usually hold a lot of weight. That there's kind of wives' tales that people say to prevent you from you know, accepting a VA offer because they think it's going to be horrid. And then you probably have heard horror stories from other lenders, right? Because they couldn't get it done and they came to you. Um, and what
But
was
the piece is also, we also make a point of calling the listing agent when Eddie's putting in the offer. We're going to reach out to the listing agent to go back through them why this is a really good deal. A, they have the cash guarantee. B, yes, this is VA, and they may or may not be putting the down payment, but this is a guaranteed closing. And if there's appraisal issues, we go through all that. So if there's enough information, because let's face it, knowledge is power. So a lot of our misconceptions are just because either it's something that we experienced so that we assumed that that was what it was like, or we've heard other people talk about it. So that's why it's really important for both Eddie and I, when he's putting in an offer, to have those conversations with the agents so that they understand that this is really a great loan and it's not going to take longer. It's not going to be harder. There's not going to be a bunch of property issues, unless there are property issues and we already know about it, that are health and safety issues. It's mold. Well, that could be a conventional loan. You still need to get it repaired, and people are going to want to get it repaired anyway. Doesn't have anything
okay?
to do because it's VA.
Yeah, look, I think in some cases, and we've come across this even when inventory was tight, and we're looking at a red hot sellers market, and sellers are usually not likely or want to do any work. They want to sell the property as is. We've had buyers take on the responsibility on their end to do the work to get the property to become fundable, right? So then ultimately we take care of those conditions, either as you said, right, with an escrow holdback. We get an invoice from a contractor. That money gets held by the attorney. The repair gets done. The money gets released. And you get to the veteran gets to enjoy their home. So that's spectacular where that's concerned. Are there talk, are there any variations of VA loans that are these all just kind of fixed rate
Nope.
loans, or are there adjustable sides of this, or
Sure.
interest only balloon, or
Yeah, no
can some
interest Only no balloon. But the cool thing with the VA loan, there's no prepayment penalty. It can be a fixed rate for 15 or 30 years. Excuse me. It can be adjustable. I mentioned that in the beginning. And someone might want an adjustable because they know they're only going to be, let's just say they're being relocated. They know they're only going to be there for 7 years. So we'll do a 7 or a 10 year arm. If the pricing is better than the 30 fix, which it typically is.
Okay.
The other thing is also with a VA loan on the purchase side and on the refinance side, you have a VA rental loan, which will allow you to do up to $50,000 of non-structural, minor cosmetic items in a house, and that can be financed into your loan, which is really cool. And
Okay.
we are doing them. New construction, we don't do it. You would have
Okay.
to go like Newtown Savings Bank, for example, for something like that, a community bank, if you're
Okay.
doing brand new construction. But VA also on the refinance side, it can allow you to take cash out to pay off maybe student loans or credit cards, or you're taking money out because you want to do things in the house. And or they also have an IRRL, as we call it, an IRRL, and that enables the veteran to do a refinance, mainly to lower their rate and lower their payment, but no cash out.
So rate and term, right?
Yep.
And is do I have to get an appraisal if I'm a veteran at that?
Yep. All of them are required. We want to do an appraisal because
Okay.
that give you the opportunity to get the best value for your property.
Okay.
We may get an appraisal waiver, but the whole point of the appraisal is to give you the value
Okay.
that you're looking
So
for.
all right. So that's phenomenal. So you ultimately know, at that moment what kind of equity you're sitting on. You may be able to tap into some of that equity to do, an improvement to consolidate debt, like you said. Yeah, and you're still within the VA. So VA loan, and then you're still. Are you looking at eligibility at that point again, or it's already,
That's,
since it was already a VA loan, you've already taken care of that?
Eddie, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up. You still have to get your eligibility cert. Have to go on the VA.gov to pull that up, even if you're doing a refinance.
Okay. So look, this can be used to purchase the property, can refinance. Um, I was not aware. Totally just learned something, and I thank you so much for schooling me on the uh, renovation piece of this, where you can get a renovation loan up to 50,000. So, gosh, if you see a home, it needs a kitchen or needs a bathroom renovation. Um, ultimately you can get that financed into the deal, right?
As long as it's non-structural. Yeah, it can
Yeah,
be
yeah,
cosmetic, non-structural is what that's the key. And let's just say, for whatever it has to be, maybe you were going to go do a VA loan, but find that all the things that you want to do in the property are just more than that. We also have other renovation loans that we could use. We have a
okay,
conventional and an FHA loan. So it's not just a one-time, or you can only do this. We have other options for that if necessary. A lot of the houses on the market now are as is.
so one thing I wanted to ask you, let's
Uh-huh.
say I have a veteran that has actually owned a home in the past, and they happen to lose it because they had a loss of job, family circumstances, and they have a foreclosure on their record. What's the timeline where I can, as a veteran, go back and reapply?
2 years.
So 2 years, and
Mhm.
then
Which
and
is
then
every other loan.
so let's say in that same instance, rather than I didn't lose the house, but I short sold it, right? Like I did a short sale, I got rid of it. So is it still kind of within that same time frame?
Still 2 years. Yeah.
Still 2 years. Okay.
Years.
Now,
Whereas, if you have foreclosures and you weren't VA, you're out 3 years on
so
the FHA side. Conventional is 7.
okay. So look, you're gonna the difference of looser standards, right? So
Yeah, more flexible.
you're more flexible. So this loan's kind of thought of ways to not make it any more difficult than it needs to be. Let's make it easy for our veterans, for
Mhm.
them to get into home ownership. And look, I think it's done that way so they can encourage them to own homes, right? Um,
100%. Yes.
so let's say I'm a veteran and I'm stationed here. I'm in Connecticut or nearby Connecticut. My family, I grew up here. I own a house here. My family's here. I get relocated to North Carolina.
Mhm.
I got to go down to, to serve down there. Um, yeah, it turns out I'm going to be there for a while. Can I actually get another home down in North Carolina?
Yes, you can. 100%. And you could add that you could still do a VA loan. Still have to pull up your certificate of eligibility. Obviously, still qualify you with income, assets, credit score, the normal. But yes, you can get another VA loan in South
Okay.
Carolina because you're being relocated down there.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
there's a couple little guidelines here and there, but 100%, yes, you can.
Okay. So look, we've squashed a lot of misconceptions that are out there. We've talked about a lot of the key benefits and how they're treated differently than a lot of other loans, and makes it a lot easier for our veterans. Is there any other things that you would, encourage? I didn't want to miss the opportunity to talk about that program that you have.
OAWI? Yeah, just a
So,
second. What I would also just let you all know, our veterans have extra benefits, and most of them are not aware of the fact that once they buy a house, even if they don't use a VA loan for whatever reason, they bring down their closing disclosure to their the town clerk wherever they're buying, whether it's a city or a town. Every city or town has a different percentage, discount percentage that they will give our military on taxes.
wow.
So you want to know that. So they're all different. So if you're a little concerned, let's say you're buying in a town that has a higher tax rate, mill rate than another one, but you really like this house up here, but the taxes are so much higher, go find out what the discount is. And then we'll figure out what your tax payment is actually going to be. And they also have a discount. I know, for example, not that I'm trying to promote any companies, but I know Liberty Mutual also gives a discount for our military. I know a lot of the different companies that we've utilized all have for homeowners insurance, also a discount for military.
Now, do you have access? You know these ins and outs. You can point the veteran to the direction where they need to go so they can take advantage of these extra discounts. Um,
100%. Mhm.
Now, just out of curiosity, because you mentioned something super cool, is that they can get lower than normal taxes in most municipalities. But is that something, if the veteran goes prior to closing, that you can calculate, the discount into the payment right from the beginning, or is that something that happens after closing?
That's a really good question. The towns, I found out from numerous years of doing this, the towns require them to um, wait till they close because
Okay,
they're not closed. You're not closed. You don't have a house till you close. But
gotcha.
if they can at least find out what the percentage is, so we know that as soon as they close, they go down and make the adjustment.
Okay, and then it gets recalculated, and then they have the lower payment subsequently because they
There might
have
be a
lower
delay.
taxes.
Yeah, but there could be a delay because depending on where you are in the tax year, if
Hmm.
you're, paying taxes 4 times a year or twice a year,
Gotcha.
depending, January, July, or the end of the other months, it might be adjusted accordingly. They may not do a full adjustment until you get to the next tax period.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah, that
also
makes
you have
sense.
to find out ahead of time. But the fact that you can get a discount to me is gigantic.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Yeah, I think some municipalities even offer that to seniors in
Yes.
some cases, right? So if you're, a senior and you're listening, you could certainly go down and see if you can get a discount on your taxes. And then if you're a veteran, you could certainly go down and figure out if you can get that. And you mentioned, yeah, if a veteran's listening and they already own a home, we've already talked that they they can refinance using this loan, and pull some cash out or equity out of their property.
Yep.
The interest rates are typically more competitive than with any other loan program,
100%.
and
Mhm.
they'll be able to make those repairs. So a lot of folks have been kind of opting to not want to move and stay in their homes. So this is a good product just so that you can uh, get the money to do the big scale repair, right? So if you're looking at a kitchen, you're looking at a roof, you're looking at something that's going to cost you, upwards of $20,000, $30,000 to do. You can get access to those funds by doing a VA loan if you're a veteran. So
Correct.
that's phenomenal. I mean, any other tips for success that you would tell our veterans as they're applying or right before they apply?
What I would really recommend is that we have a conversation and we start to find out your wants and needs in regard to payment, and so on and so forth. Like, what kind of house, where do you want to keep your payment? So that once we've reviewed all your income and assets, we're going to talk again and make sure that this suits you, whatever it is. Do you want to refinance? Are you purchasing? Are you going to do a renovation? What are we doing here? Once we put that all together, and so again, you want to make sure that if you're looking to buy, you might need to adjust some of your spending habits. Let's face it, myself included, we get a little bit crazy sometimes with our spending. So there are costs involved with any kind of a home closing. The good thing is, as a VA loan, you have less closing costs than a standard loan. There's some things that are minimalized. That is correct.
Huh.
Some things that they don't, some things are limited, which we can go into another time because that's a whole nother discussion. But one is, for example, we pay for your appraisal. Done, over, that's the way it is. But you have a little bit less closing costs. You want to look at how you're spending your money. We want to look at, let's look ahead of time. It's really hard to fall in love with a house if we have credit issues ahead of time that need to be fixed. So when you're thinking about it, let's get the background work done first. Let's look at your credit, your income, your assets, so we can create a plan. You may be able to get right out there and get it done and start looking, or maybe we need to wait a little bit. So that would be my biggest is when you want to buy and you're thinking about it, let's do the background work first.
Okay.
Into the cash guarantee. You're already underwritten. You're good. It's done. You're approved. You can get out there, less stress, close quickly. Eddie will find you a gorgeous house because Eddie is a phenomenal listener and he's a killer negotiator. I mean, like,
It's fun.
yeah, seriously,
No,
you are like a little pit bull. And he does it so calmly, and like the people don't even know what happened to him, and then he gets you the house, and it's great. So,
well, look, I love what you were saying about like, because you wouldn't. I mean, and I love that it's a VA loan we're talking about, right? Because you wouldn't step into battle without having a plan, right? So if you wouldn't do that in the military, you're certainly not going to do that when you're applying for a home loan. So yeah, you got to sit, kind of gather where you are, do an assessment, find out if you need to make any adjustments, whether that be to spending habits or paying down some debt so that you can improve your credit score. Ultimately, so that you can accomplish your overall goal, right? So if your overall goal is to get into the house, you will want to make that process go as smoothly as possible. The loan program, makes things very easy, but ultimately it's up to the borrower to make certain that they have things aligned with it, right? So
yeah. Mhm.
so if I've got crazy, habits where I'm going to Starbucks all the time, I might need to curtail that before I decide to go buy a house. So
And hell, that
um,
could save you $70 a week.
could, right? Which could apply to the overall payment, but
Mhm.
look, yeah, I'll be the first to buy him a closing gift that has coffee in there and a coffee maker so that they could make it at home. Uh, so I didn't want to leave without talking about the program that you have, the Warrior program, because I think that's so special, and folks need to hear about it. Can you tell us a little bit more?
So the American Warrior Initiative, that is our nonprofit in Fairway. It is so incredible. Um, if you're looking for a good cry, go on YouTube and go watch. Just look up American Warrior Initiative and go watch any of our programs. So what we do is everyone at Fairway, anyone that wants to, that is, has the ability to donate to this on a regular basis. And one of the things that we're working on is to have an American Warrior Initiative event. And at these events, we bring in our real estate agents from all over so that we can help teach them how to be better at serving those that have served in the military when it comes to finding a house and so on and so forth. When we're there, we have a veteran at these events, maybe more than one, that's been vetted, that's in need and of different things. And so far, I believe year to date, we have funded 302 service dogs and the training through that,
Oh,
all through our donations. So when we have our event, when you go on YouTube, you'll see it. And the realtors learn, they get their continuing ed,
hmm,
and the money that we raise there from the event, and whatnot, it goes to the service person that is there, unbeknownst to them. This is a total surprise to them when they get there. They just think they're, checking out the event. Whether we give them a service dog or whether we've given them gift cards towards things, and I don't mean $25. So far, just in 2022, we gave away 47 service dogs along with their training. Pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. If you listen to the stories of the individuals that have gotten the service dogs, whether their service dog had passed and they were waiting for a new one, we're filling that need. And we have saved so many people. When you hear their stories, you get the chills, you just cry. It's amazing what these service dogs do and how they help our veterans. It's just incredible. We've also given financial assistance last year to over 90 veterans, first responders, and active duty individuals. And we also donated over $127,000 to other nonprofits that assist our veterans and their families. And in addition to that, we've given over $25,000 just last year in gift cards to veterans and their families. So it's an amazing nonprofit, and it's all done through the generosity of our CEO, Steve Jacobson, amazing individual, and he oversees it with Louise Thaxton, and so my branch will have one of these events. We haven't scheduled it yet. It's the most incredible thing you've ever witnessed or experienced. I can't even.
phenomenal.
It's just wonderful. And I really hope anyone that's listening at least take 15 minutes, go on YouTube, and just pull up American Warrior Initiative from any year. It doesn't really matter. You'll see little Louise Thaxton, and she's from Louisiana. Louisiana, we call her Louise. And she's either there with Sean Parnell or other veterans. At our last meeting, we had Jason Redman, who was injured in Afghanistan, special ops, guy's incredible. And he goes on 200 speaking engagements to make people more aware, and has written quite a few books. So is Sean Parnell, another individual that was stationed in Afghanistan. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Wow.
It's just the most incredible thing that we can do as a give back. It's, I don't know, it's our heart, it's our passion. I don't know how else to explain it.
That is phenomenal. You guys, so you're doing good work. You're all, helping families, veterans get into homes, doing the VA loans, um, you know, walking them through the process, getting them into their house, which is huge. But then to put the icing on the cake and the cherry on top, you just got, you're giving back to the community. You're looking for these American warriors, these veterans that are in need, right? Like, by offering, service dogs, gift cards, financial, assistance, grants. That's phenomenal, because it's not just about kind of helping and serving the clients. It's about being a member of the community, and you guys at Fairway are certainly members of the community, and bring a ton of value to those we serve. So I want to applaud you and your company for doing these wonderful things. As we wrap up, I did just want to kind of give a quick bullet points of the benefits, right? To summarize, VA loan. You said much easier to do
Yep,
than any other loan. Looser standards.
correct.
Um,
Mhm.
we basically myth busted that appraisals are not an issue. Timing of the deals not an issue. The appraisers, you know, they have a little extra time, but they don't. We've got that under control with our in-house appraisal management company, and then you've got a situation where they can use this loan to do buy a condo if it's on the list. They can use it to buy a single family home. They can go ahead and buy a multifamily. As long as their eligibility is all in alignment.
Mhm.
So I've learned a ton of information today, and the one that is my one that stands out is the renovation one, which is being able to finance up to $50,000. So veterans, if you're not seeing the homes that you like online, or you think the kitchen needs to be redone, and the homes, some of the stale inventory that we have on the market, might be need to be revisited, right? Um, just to know that you can update that kitchen, and you can make the house yours. So
And you don't have to look at the ugly stuff and wonder, geez, where am I going to get the money to fix it? You can put up to 50,000 of non-structural cosmetic work right into it.
so Annie, tell me, how, if I'm a veteran, how do I get a hold of you so that I can start this process?
Okay. So you can call me. My cell phone is 203-521-2906. You can email me, um, which is real simple. It's my name. It's Annie, ANNIEL, at Fairway, M for mortgage, C for corporation.com. So it's fairwaymc.com. You can reach out to Eddie because you're going to reach out to him to buy a house anyway. So you can reach out to Eddie and say, how do you get in touch with Annie? There's a website I can send there. I can put it at the bottom of the chat, which I can put all that if you show me how.
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
Show
So
me, Cynthia, how do I do it?
so
But
Cynthia put the email address in the chat. So I definitely yeah want to encourage folks to give you a call, because you mentioned it earlier, right? Like, they need to plan, right? They got to make sure that they have everything in alignment. So meeting with you is the first step of the process. You can talk to me, but the first, I'm going to pass the baton directly back to Annie so that she can prepare you. You're going to let them know how they get to find out their eligibility, right? Like, what they need to do in order to get that.
right, we'll give you the website. It's basically va.gov to make it simple. And but most importantly, as Eddie Sands had mentioned earlier, it's like whether you're going VA or on any loan, you need to plan ahead of time. So if this is something you're thinking about, let's talk. Let's see what you can afford. Let's see what your wants and needs are, what makes sense for you. And let's get you underwritten with the income and assets being signed off on, getting you the cash guarantee. So now you have a win-win. You've been underwritten, you've been approved. I can close you in 10, 12 days at that point, pretty much. Because we just need taxes, appraisal, and insurance. Let's get you the cash guarantee so that we can put a really solid package together for you when you're placing an offer, so that you'll have less stress, and you'll be in the house in no time it'll be your new castle. It's what you want.
Super. Oh, thank you so much, Annie, for joining me today and for being a guest
Oh, thank you for having
um, on the webinar. And I look forward to continuing to work with you, and
me.
you bringing it's when you're with the Latrella Group. Can't say this enough. It's like going to family. So, she's not going to steer you the wrong way. She's going to take care of you like if you were a member of the family. So she may grab you by the ear sometimes and even tell you, like, "Hey, stop doing that. I'm trying to help you here." So, look, it's all out of love, and I could tell the love and passion you bring to your job, and your work, and it's a pleasure to work with you. So I thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. I always love working with you, Eddie, because you're the best. You're stellar. And like I
Thank
told
you.
you guys, he's a pit bull with no negotiation. So you need to go there. You need to
Thank
go.
you.
And Eddie treats you like family too. So that he just loves his clients. It's perfect. You couldn't have anything better. We're a good team.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Annie,
Thank you.
for joining us, and catch us on the replay if you didn't catch us, and we'll certainly be putting out more content out there so that folks can get educated about VA loans, and how easy it is to work with Latrella Lending. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Bye bye.
much. Bye bye.